If you go around calling yourself the Iranian Hulk, you better not get thrown around the place as easily as this guy. Not only could the dude barely fight, but he couldn't stay on his feet after getting pushed by his opponent. Hulk? I don't think so. Okay, sure, he's got the size to back up the title, but man, he looked more like a giant teddy bear once he ran into someone who wasn't afraid of him. And we all know the bigger they are, the harder they fall. We're bringing you the best examples of bullies getting humiliated in combat sports. The times where it was proven beyond any doubt that having a big mouth was not all it was cracked up to be. Here's what happens when bully fighters get what they deserve.
Yeah, let's face it, he's young. There's a hell of a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I'm a man. This is man versus boy.
The problem with doing the whole man versus boy bit is that it leaves you in a pretty awkward spot if your opponent manages to get the better of you. And for Ryland Charlton, his decision to try and bring age into the equation against Adam Azim was always going to raise the stakes. Charlton was really trying to bring a certain level of swagger to the proceedings from the get-go. He promised that his size and his experience would be the undoing of his confident young opponent. And as the press conference went on, the tension between these two was clearly rising. It got so tense that the host had to ask Charlton if he had anything positive to say about Azim before they left.
Let's end it on a nice note, I guess. What does Adam do well?
Well, let's face it, he's sharp. He's clearly got a bit of power. But I just don't believe he's got this chin.
While Ryland did give him credit for his composure, he also followed that up by taking shots at what he perceived as a weak chin, which Azim seemed to find funny because he wasn't really taking hard shots. Charlton's words would come back to haunt him though, because on fight night, it wasn't Azim's chin that was the issue. No, for as much as Adam Azim was the favorite coming in, he managed to get this one done a lot quicker than most expected.
He gets back to his feet. He's only got a few seconds remaining in the round. Lee, left uppercut there from Azim, and Charlton is just hanging on. The dear left down he goes again from a big left hand.
In the second round of the scheduled 10, his power and accuracy proved too much for Charlton, and as soon as Azim tried to pile on the pressure, this fight became less and less competitive.
5 seconds or so remaining, and you can see the legs still are not steady here. The left hand lands on the gloves, but it still causes him to take a big step backwards. The end could be nigh here for Ryland Charlton. Azim on the brink of another first round win, looking to launch in with that left hand. Charlton.
For all the talk of Azim's chin being potentially suspect, as soon as he hit Charlton, the dude hit the canvas and didn't get back up.
Get up a tree, hide behind a rock, stand in the tall grass, do something, but stay out in the open, and the right hand comes over the top, and down he goes. The towel came in anyway, as he just listed into that bottom rope. Azim celebrating wildly.
A dominant win with a vicious finish. The guy is a real future prospect.
Nonito?
Oh, I'd love to fight him. I don't think they're going to fight me. He's running from me already for 5 years. I'm going to have to fight.
If you're going to try and claim that your opponent is running from a fight with you, you'd better show and produce the goods on fight night. Because for Vic Darchinyan, he had the misfortune of getting way too cocky during his pre-fight trash talk of the great Nonito Donaire, implying that this iconic fighter wouldn't accept a bout with him if he decided to step up and wait. Vic had every right to be confident, boasting an unbeaten 28-0 record, a solid run of KOs, and even a win over Nonito's brother Glenn Donaire. Although it did come by way of a technical decision following an accidental elbow. But Vic was convinced that Nonito would have nothing for him on fight night, if he even managed to make it to the ring. Little did he know, though, that he was about to step in there with one of the finest fighters his division has seen in years. And when Donaire did accept the bout agreement, there would be some serious payback on its way. Nonito Donaire, as it turned out, was not one to be trifled with. The fight hadn't exactly been going to plan for Vic anyway, but Nonito's ability to walk him onto punches was unrivaled.
Darchinyan does not hit hard, and you can see the punches coming. Darchinyan's response, he was toying with Glenn that night. He didn't punch as hard as he usually does. Big left uppercut attempt there by Donaire, that missed.
When an overeager Vic moved into range with haste, Donaire tagged him with an electric left hook, right on the chin. catching him clean and sending him to the canvas with no hope of survival.
Jab by Nonito Donaire, working well. Oh my!
Look out! Darchinian down for the first time! Struggling to get to his feet! In terrible shape, it's all over! It's all over! Nonito Donaire has pulled off the monstrous upset!
His corner took one look at his attempts to get back to his feet and ran straight over to stop the fight. Nonito Donaire handled business on this night with a truly violent result. One of the best fighters in his weight during his prime, without a doubt.
This fight right here in California, wherever he wanted to be, Lions only promotion, this fight sold because of me. This motherfucker can't even complete a sentence. He half retarded damn near. It ain't sold off him. This fight sold off your boy. They coming to see your boy.
Tony Harrison is a fine fighter, a championship-level fighter, but certainly a guy who was a little out of his depth when it came to taking a challenge like Jermell Charlo. These Charlo brothers are damn good fighters who have a pretty solid fan base behind them at all times. And though we've seen both of them coming up against hurdles in their career, most boxing fans were sure that Jermell's technical prowess would prove to be too much for Harrison on fight night. Even though Harrison had managed to get the win against Jermell the first time around, it was clear where these two fighters were heading trajectory-wise. But that didn't stop Tony from laying into Charlo on the mic, joking about his fans being way too loyal to see sense, while then making fun of his speech pattern. And hey, next to a guy as well-spoken as him, who knows? But either way, you could tell that Charlo was secretly happy that his opponent was willing to do virtually all the heavy lifting when it came to selling this bout to the public. Because when the time to fight came, Jermell was ready to compete, and above all else, ready to get revenge for the first and only loss of his career to that point. And hearing the way Harrison talked, we can't blame Charlo for wanting to take him out with extra style points. Sure enough, we saw a radically improved Jermell Charlo this time around, one who had an easy job ripping his opponent's defenses to shreds.
Here at 154 pounds, title is on the line, and already Charlo winging shots. Aggressive Harrison ducking out of the way.
It has to be controlled aggression. He can't leave himself wide open like that.
And by the time the championship rounds came, it was all Charlo, and he was able to really put a beating on his opponent, flurrying his way into the final exchange.
Harrison hurt again by the hook. Harrison could go down again. The ropes are keeping him up.
Over.
Now he's wobbled, and down he goes.
And once the ref realized how this one was going, he had clearly seen more than enough to call it off right then and there.
Jack Reese is looking close. Jack Reese has ended it. Jermell Charlo is the champion of the world again.
Revenge was achieved for Jermell Charlo, and we're sure it felt sweet.
This, when it comes to the way I'm going to fight Canelo Alvarez, it's not going. One thing I know for a fact: the fight is not going to last 12 rounds.
When James Kirkland told the world that his fight with Canelo Alvarez was not going to last 12 rounds, he got that one totally correct. The problem for this unheralded contender stemmed from the clear disadvantage he was at when compared to this living legend of the ring. Canelo might not have been the sharpest talker, at least in his second language of English at the time. But man, this dude was and is still a murderous puncher who had a well-known ability to take an opponent's confidence and sap it with each killer blow to the midsection, with each follow-up shot down the pipe. Canelo was an absolute savage during these years, and James Kirkland was, well, he was in Canelo's way. Kirkland might have claimed that he could bring the fight out of Canelo in a way that would surprise us, but instead, he realized almost instantly that he was way out of his depth on this one. In fact, these two fighters looked like they were competing several levels apart, and it didn't take Canelo long to assert himself.
Just like that, left hook to the body there, and another big left hook. Knocks Kirkland into the ropes. Alvarez landing everything. Straight right, straight right, straight right, left to the body.
This was a pound-for-pound great against a good fighter, a very good fighter even. But that gap in skill left Kirkland with little more than a puncher's chance in this one. The first knockdown came in the opening round, and you could see that electric current going through Kirkland's body, like it couldn't believe how hard he'd been hit.
Well, Canelo taking his time and landing the big shot, knowing
right hand, down goes Kirkland. Minutes still to go in the first round.
The second knockdown was enough to force the ref to tell Kirkland clearly to show him something or he'd stop it.
Tell him because there he is.
Uppercut knocks Kirkland down. knockdown of the fight.
But man, Canelo's third and final knockdown of the fight produced one of the finest KOs he would ever get in his pro career.
Always going to want to fight. He's never going to give up.
But his legs are not there. This time, I don't think he's getting up.
Wow.
Is he counting or is it all over?
Oh, it's over.
All over.
It's over.
He knocked him out cold.
Seriously, this was an incredible knockout punch from this Mexican sensation, and it ended up proving Kirkland's pre-fight prediction correct. 12 rounds were not needed after all.
I'm not expecting to be a world champion tomorrow. I just like to fight. Sign me up. Sign me up for some fun fights. When they called and they said MVP, I said, the guy that wears karate pants and karate boots, yeah, sign me up for that guy. Let's go. Let's see how great he is. Is he great? I don't know. We go find out Friday night. Because, I mean, quite frankly, if you're not a world champion, you can't beat me.
There was a real pre-fight confidence to David Rickles when he fielded questions about his upcoming bout with the great striker, Michael Venom Paige. He wasn't overly braggy or too full of bravado, but he openly stated he loved to fight, and he wasn't convinced that MVP was cut from the type of cloth needed to score a win over him. Rickles, in his own mind, was so battle-tested that you really needed to be a championship-level fighter to hang with him, and that would probably be a bridge too far for a fighter like Paige. There was an arrogance to the way he talked, like he was humble bragging about his warrior mentality, without getting too outward about it. He also made sly jokes about Paige's karate attire, and seemed to be suggesting that he himself, as a real fighter, would be the one to push this man further than anyone had done up to that point. All of these words would come back to bite him in the most hilarious fashion possible, because so far in this video, we've dealt with a few vicious KOs, a few displays of total dominance, but what Paige did to David Rickles was arguably even worse. There are levels to the fight game, of course, and the consequences of overstepping your own level can often be painful, and in some cases, career-threatening. But man, for someone who tried to paint themselves as this hard-nosed veteran who could test his opponent's grit, the end result was truly one of a kind. On fight night, the speed of Paige was simply too much for Rickles to deal with, and it really caused the skill level between them to be made obvious. It got so bad that MVP eventually seemed totally unbothered by anything that Rickles is throwing back at him. And by the time the second round, this fight was basically done.
When to explode the top.
Oh, wow, lead right hand that clocks David Rickles. And that just, Rickles' face exploded much.
Rickles signaled to the ref that he wanted to quit, throwing his arms up in frustration and ending the fight by way of TKO due to retirement.
It's over, much like the knee to Cyborg.
He's giving up.
He's giving up.
I don't know what he's doing. He's giving up.
Referee, he's giving up. It's over. Michael Venom Paige, 13-0. And all I can say is Mamma Mia.
Now, we see that a lot in the boxing ring, but in MMA, the culture is not so forgiving to a fighter who decides to take this step, especially after all that trash talk pre-fight.
Come here to disrespect Steve Cunningham about talent.
We heard you, Mr. Fury. We heard you.
Listen,
we respect you and we heard you.
On the planet.
We heard you.
We heard you about the planet.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
We
Listen,
heard
I'm
you.
not named after a battleship or whatever.
You're the best man on the planet.
Tyson Fury's the name, and fighting's the game.
Okay.
End of.
We got you. But my thing is, like I said, I heard what you said about fighting. But one thing I would suggest, and I say this, I send this out to main events also. I have a lightweight fighter. If the guy's not a lightweight, you don't want to fight him. I have a heavyweight fighter. If he's not a heavyweight, don't match us up.
He's not a heavyweight, he's a cruiserweight.
Like I let you speak. My thing is, if you're not a heavyweight, why would you be fighting a guy who's not a heavyweight?
Tyson Fury's trajectory through the heavyweight division over the years has been kind of remarkable to witness. At first, he was seen as a loudmouth boxer who was talented, but clearly too awkward to really push through and become an elite-level fixture. He was more known for that viral clip of him accidentally uppercutting himself in the face mid-fight and for his wild trash talking than he was for any legitimate wins at the highest level. And when he came in to take on Steve Cunningham, a former cruiserweight who'd stepped up to heavyweight, the Gypsy King was full of his usual trash talk, taking multiple shots at Cunningham and promising that his own physical and technical advantages would prove to be way too much for him on fight night.
So, you know, everybody's a bum because I can beat him. So, when I beat Steve Cunningham, are you then going to say he's a bum too?
It was classic Fury, but you gotta remember that we hadn't seen him rise up and shock the world by beating Vladimir Klitschko just yet. But there was little doubt over who the villain was between these two coming in. And while we gotta break our own rule with this one, yeah, Tyson Fury is obviously still undefeated, and yes, he did beat Steve Cunningham.
And Tyson Fury realizes he's got a real fight in front of him now. Maybe this isn't the soft puncher he thought it was, and he just caught Steve Cunningham with a nice right hand there, and Steve's got to be careful.
However, the moment that everyone remembers from this fight came when the over-aggressive and overconfident Fury started way too fast and got sat down in the second round by a hard shot from his opponent.
At the end of it here.
Just an intimidation factor. Fury saying, listen, I'm the bigger guy. I'm going to come out and control you and dominate you. And he's letting Steve know, listen, it's going to be a long night for you, Steve.
Round 2 underway in that first round according to comeuppance. Fury. Oh, he's knocked down. He's knocked down.
Tyson made the mistake of underestimating his opponent here. And while sure he did go on to win the fight, this was the moment that everyone points to.
Backing up just a bit.
Yeah, Steve's almost done here. Look at this.
It's another good and he's down. Cunningham is knocked out by Fury.
A moment that could have changed history forever under different circumstances. But as we all know, even though Tyson is forced to eat humble pie every now and then, his ability to pick himself back up again is second to none.
Referee Eddie Cotton counts the 10, the winner by knockout victory, still undefeated. He is the heavyweight fighting pride of Manchester, Tyson Fury.
I want this. I want to do what Jake Paul couldn't. Knock you out.
Line me up. Easy money. Easy money, baby.
Easy money. We'll see, bro.
Easy money.
We'll see.
You are going to sleep in 4 rounds.
I make money. A lot of people are saying that I have no chance, 0 chance. But then when I get in that ring and knock out Tommy Fury, you're gonna look at me differently.
You ain't fought nobody, mate, and I'm not saying just talking. It's all bullshit. Anyway,
Anthony Taylor, I'll slap you.
Do it, and you'll have no jaw left. I guarantee you.
Shit.
No jaw.
Right,
that's that coffee then.
I don't need 6 rounds. I'll knock you out in 4.
All right, well, keep filling yourself full
I
of
will
false
knock you
stuff,
out
mate.
in 4. When I hit you, bro. A YouTuber is going to knock out Tommy Fury, and there's nothing you can do about it.
We return to the world of YouTube boxing once again, this time for yet another high-profile clash between internet celebrity and actual pro fighter. But in this case, the lines were blurred somewhat due to KSI's status as one of the more formidable YouTubers to fight in the ring, and Tommy Fury being a pretty low-level pro fighter. And as we saw with Fury's matchup against Jake Paul, he was clearly on a level not too far removed from these YouTubers. But KSI was sure to make a beeline for that fight as soon as he could, pushing the narrative that he'd be able to do what Jake could not, stepping in there with a reasonably successful pro boxer and getting the finish. Jake had failed to score the win, which did kind of halt his momentum for a while. But all in all, these two YouTube standouts are just looking to build their profiles up until they eventually fight each other. KSI was going all in on his trash talking of Fury, looking to rattle his cage by any means necessary.
It is over, and then your fucking career is dying.
To Fury's credit, he didn't crack once under the pressure, even if things did get a little heated from time to time. It makes sense that KSI can talk the talk, but when the time came for him to step in there with a lifelong boxer, a man who grew up with the sport, the shortcomings in his own game became very clear.
The referee forces them to touch gloves, and ladies and gentlemen, oh boy.
Now, don't get me wrong, he didn't do too badly in there with Fury.
He's digging to the rib cages, KSI. He'd love for this to be a brawl. He doesn't want to box Tommy Fury.
But he definitely got hit a lot more than we'd seen in fights with him in low-level scrubs.
I think it's going to come really, really important. KSI trying to do some dirty work on the inside. He's connected.
Fury was giving him a real boxing lesson in there for the most part, and KSI's fans and the general YouTuber boxing scene fans were forced to accept that maybe their guys were just low-level after all. Because if it wasn't made painfully clear by the Jake Paul fight, the KSI bout was the one that sealed it. YouTube boxing might stay around for a few more years, but manage your expectations.
Roberto Ramirez and Joel Elizondo scored the bout 57-56 to the winner by majority decision, Tommy Fury.
know his jaw was that big. You don't got a hell of a chance in the ring and out the ring. Get some fire up in the ass. Let's do it. I'm like, wine, I'm getting better with time. I wrote a poem about this fight. Extra, extra, read all about it. Shane fight me is like a door scratching off a flea. It's going to be easy. He's lunch meat, so I can't wait to step in the ring with him. I'm looking forward to you know, open up a can and whoop it.
You gotta give credit where it's due to Monty Barrett. He certainly does know how to sell a fight, and even to convince certain people that he has a chance when he's outmatched. And prior to his clash with Shane Cameron, Barrett did his best Muhammad Ali impression, rattling off some pre-written poetry that summed up his prediction for the fight ahead. All in all, he was sounding as confident as can be, perfectly certain that Shane Cameron would stand little to no chance of getting the better of him on fight night.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is the reigning, defending Asia Pacific and Oriental Heavyweight Champion, presenting Monty "Two Guns" Barrett!
And if bouts were won and lost based on the strength of your trash talk, maybe he would have been in luck. But unfortunately, Cameron didn't need to sell this fight in the same fashion. No, he had something Monty Barrett did not, and it would come to the surface with dramatic consequences on fight night.
Understand this, you must fight within the rules, and you don't, you understand that? Touch glass to have to do away with it.
The final instructions right there by Brian Vocali. And they test the gloves, and again.
Unfortunately, Monty Barrett's prediction that he would open a can of whoop-ass when that opening bell rang were made to look very foolish in hindsight. In fact, this one was kind of hilarious to watch unfold. All those pre-fight predictions were unraveled inside 4 rounds with truly shocking consequences.
We are ready for round number 4 for the WBO Asia Pacific WBO Oriental title, the champion Monty Barrett. Shane Cameron in
Cameron had a clear advantage in several key areas, and man, when he connected with a nuclear-charged overhand punch in round 4, it sent Barrett to the canvas immediately. No doubt over the fight being over. And that was all she wrote, folks. Barrett was out for the count, leaving Cameron with a clear-cut victory.
Don't threaten me here, bro. Don't fucking threaten me here, bro. Don't threaten me here. Don't threaten me here. That was a bitch slap for a bitch. That's not gonna slap you like a real bitch.
So you think you're gonna put Artem in the hospital?
Yeah. If I don't put Artem in the hospital, it's probably not worthwhile. And then at the end of the day, I don't really like Artem Lobov. I don't really like anybody associated with McGregor. So to have a chance to finally put one of them in the hospital, it kind of tickles my fancy, I gotta be honest with you.
The build-up to the clash between Paulie Malignaggi and Artem Lobov was an interesting one. Malignaggi, the seasoned pro boxer, clearly underestimated Lobov's bare-knuckle skills, or how they would translate over from mixed martial arts, dismissing him as out of his league. Lobov, however, was confident that his own granite chin and ability to scrap would make up for any shortcomings on a technical level. Artem was kind of seen as a meme fighter within mixed martial arts, but his transition to BKFC brought with it some real success. And the fact that Paulie had already had that major beef with Lobov's teammate Conor McGregor made this fight a guaranteed business success. Paulie was one hell of a trash talker in his heyday, but considering how aggressive he could be on the mic, the dude had an infamous lack of punching power, and it made the fans wonder if he could ever close the gap on someone who could legitimately hit hard like Artem.
I'm gonna punch the shit out of you, buddy. You know what's great? You know what's the best part about this card is it is a great card. I mean, you have Barnett and Bedford, you got Lieben and Cochran. You know, this solid matchups, really exciting fights. And then you're gonna get a mismatch where I'm gonna pummel the shit out of this guy like he fucking stole something. I'm gonna beat you like your fucking father.
Lobov might be rough around the edges, but if there's one thing that he could do, was make this fight ugly. And with an out-of-prime Malignaggi in front of him, that's exactly what he did.
Good left hand from Malignaggi. 30 seconds gone, round 5.
Every time Lobov throws a powerful punch in the rounds, it seems like it moves money.
Lobov holding the overhook. Clever turn from Malignaggi.
Veteran boxing reviews right there.
On fight night, Lobov's dirty boxing and sheer persistence were more than enough to even the playing field against Paulie's technical skills.
He just can't wait. He got to be first.
Left hand, now Lobov to the inside.
just manhandling him.
Wants to use the dirty boxing. Holding the overhook.
What could have been a chess match turned into a bloody back and forth, with Lobov having some huge moments in there, even bull rushing Paulie into the ropes and down to the mat at one point. In the end, despite Malinagi's championship experience, the victory went in the direction of the Russian Hammer. A surprising result, considering how these two looked on paper.
3 rounds to 2 in favor of Artem Lobov.
I think they saw the last 3 rounds when Lobov came forward, he was doing more damage, and that's what they liked, the pressure.
I think the aggressive boxing by Lobov did it for him, but definitely a close fight. Hats off to Paulie Malignaggi.